The MMA fortune teller.
The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller. The teller.
What is up, you guys? The teller checking in. As you guys see, we're doing this prediction breakdown video in a new type of format. I hope you guys like it. Make sure after you guys watch the video, let me know what you guys think about it. I told you I was working on a new type of breakdown video format for quite some time, and this is only the beginning stages of it, so expect this to continue to evolve. Also, take into consideration, this is the first time I'm putting out a video like this. I'm working with a lot of new equipment, so we might have a couple bumps in the road, but overall, you guys are going to get a way better experience with the prediction videos being given to you with this new format. You guys will be able to stay every click of the way with me through the video. So cheers to that. Cheers to UFC 249. That's going to be taking place May 9th. I feel very confident about that as well. So and we have a hell of a card. UFC 249. I mean, top to bottom, bottom to top. I mean, of course we're going to get a hell of a card when we hadn't had fights in such a long period of time. The roster is just, waiting to get at it. There's so many amazing fighters that are just waiting to get in there that the UFC can throw together. And since the last time that we spoke, there's a couple of surprise fights that got put together. Of course, Cowboy Cerrone and Anthony Pettis. I don't know about you guys, but I wasn't expecting that. I believe some of the other new fights that we have in this card are Carla Esparza versus Michelle Waterson, I believe. And what else do we have? Henry Cejudo versus Dominick Cruz. That is an amazing matchup. I'm very excited for that fight. Can't wait to get into the details here in a little bit. Yeah, man. So it looks like we will be having 3 events taking place within an 8-day span. So I'm going to be putting a lot of these videos out to you guys. And you guys know better than me, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to make some money. And speaking of making money, just in case you guys forgot what was going on this side before we had that little brief break in time, the teller was absolutely killing it. I mean, you run I even give you guys a quick little look at a bet that I had placed in that obviously is not going to be taking place. I did have Rose Namajunas locked in. That bet is voided. Of course, the event didn't happen and the fight was scrapped anyway. But, before that, I did lose that Jussier Formiga fight, but Gilbert Burns and Charles Oliveira came through in a big way, made it a profitable event. That was the last event that took place over in Brazil, for those of you guys that remember that card. Before that, Marco Mads and Alex Cowboy Oliveira, Beneil Dariush had this nice little parlay, Grant Dawson and Magomed Ankalaev. That came through nice. Dan Hooker, that was a solid hit. Merab Davashvili. Scott Holtzman came through for me. Diego Sanchez, that was a little bit of a fluke fight, but, nevertheless, another win. So, the teller has been on fire. Don't expect anything to be changing moving forward to, these events that are going to be coming up here soon. You take a look at the card here. For those of you guys that haven't really looked at the lines, I'm not going to say that UFC 249 has a lot of gaping opportunities, sitting there for us, but nevertheless, you know how I do. I'm going to find my opportunities to make money on a card like this. So, yeah, definitely excited for UFC 249. And without any further ado, I guess it's time to start breaking down this card. As I said, the first fight of the night, or first fight of the evening, depending when this fight card is going to be taking place, we got Ryan Spann taking on Sam Alvey. I really like this matchup. We take a look at the line. We got... where are these? Don't believe MMA Odds has this fight up here right now, but it's looking like it's going to be right around... Oh, they don't have it over here in Tapology either. Ryan Spann, last time I saw, was the heavy favorite. I'm sure a lot of you guys are on the same page with me here. A lot of you guys are expecting Ryan Spann to go out there and make work of Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey, 34 years old, has not been looking good as of recently. Lost his last 3 fights in a row. And, he's not making the weight cut down to middleweight. He's fighting at light heavyweight. He seems to be just at that point in his career where he's just going in for a paycheck. And he's made a name for himself, so he's able to do it. So, props to him. But, after he loses to Ryan Spann, that's 4 losses in a row. And he's probably going to get his walking papers there, Just lost to Klidson Abreu, Jimmy Crute. That was a tough fight. I believe he tried to argue the stoppage in that fight, and he lost that fight clearly. And then, of course, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira also got the finish on him. So, 2 of his last 3 fights that he lost, he got finished too. So, Sam Alvey's been taking some damage throughout the years. Ryan Spann, a real light heavyweight, 6'5", 81.5-inch reach. This guy is a real light heavyweight, training over there at Fortis Fight Team, an excellent fight camp. And I think this is a fight that I really don't need to go too much into detail on. I think Ryan Spann is just going to be a little bit more athletic, a little bit more active in there. Of course, Sam Alvey is a guy, an excellent counter puncher, but doesn't throw a lot of volume. So when you have money on him, it's always it's just agonizing to sit there and watch him fight when you have money on him, because he's not even active, he's not throwing any strikes, and you're just praying for that counter punch. I've seen him fight live. I've seen him connect with that counter punch and put dudes out before. The fight that comes to mind was an event that took place in Orlando, I believe, and he looked good in that fight. Who was that he knocked out? Maybe it was the Polish fighter Marcin Prachnio. But you really can't bank on that happening against a guy in Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann, 17-5. You take a look at the guys that he's lost to; they're all formidable opponents too. Carl Robertson, Trevin Giles, Robert Drysdale, an excellent BJJ practitioner, got the submission on Spann. Spann's the real deal. Like I said, Spann just had a knockout on Nogueira. Himself. That was a fight that you can kind of translate into this fight. An old crafty veteran and a kind of a changing of the guard. And Ryan Spann's been locked in there with some solid dudes, man. Alex Nicholson, an ex-UFC fighter, a tough dude. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with him, man. Spann had a nasty knockout on him, as you see here. So the striking is there for Ryan Spann. His grappling is a little bit underrated as well. And a solid fighter. Take a look over here. This is when Sam Alvey got cracked by Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute is a solid fighter, man, as well. So no real shame in that loss, but it is Sam Alvey's time to start preparing to leave the fight game. So, so definitely got Ryan Spann to win the fight. And, with that being said, we'll start to move on to our next fight, which is going to be... Let's see what we got next. I believe we have Charles Rosa taking on another solid prospect, man, and Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell, man, is a guy has really been making a name for himself as well. 12-0, and after he's been winning recently, this guy's been grabbing the mic and just going ham, talking all types of shit. Let's see, get some. Let's see here.
Everybody back home in Arkansas support me. Y'all know I love Arkansas. And Reebok, y'all gonna have to kill me or maybe
I like it.
Shorts, 'cause I ain't shutting up till then.
He wants those camo shorts.
Here in DC, if you need help whooping some politician, holler at me, brother. I'll do it for free.
Hey.
There he is, your winner.
I like the energy that he's bringing. This guy's a solid fighter. Of course, he made a name for himself on the Ultimate Fighter show. In my opinion, he's actually excelled in his career a lot better than I thought that he would have after leaving the Ultimate Fighter show. That twister choke that he pulled off against who was that he pulled out against? I believe it was Matt Sales. There's not a lot of fighters pulling off twister chokes. The last one that comes to mind was the Korean Zombie against Leonard Garcia, but you don't see that happen often. So that shows you that his BJJ is definitely. It's definitely, up there. He has some solid BJJ. And, I'm excited for this fight. I believe that the winner of this fight is really going to start to make a name for himself. Charles Rosa, on the other hand, his last fight, he pulled off a nasty, I believe it was like a hybrid, like an armbar. It was an armbar, I believe. Kind of was throwing up the triangle choke and then pulled off the armbar against a very, very skilled BJJ fighter, Manny Bermudez. So Charles Rosa, this guy is absolutely no joke as well. Very cool dude. I met this guy over here in South Florida on St. Patrick's Day a while back. He was rocking his Celtics jersey over there in Meisner Square. If you're listening, Rosa, I was the dude that was chewing your ear off. Yeah, but Rosa, man, a really cool dude. Like I said, that armbar against Manny Bermudez, man, very impressive. Did take a loss before that to Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos is no joke. There's no real shame in that. But I believe, Charles Rosa was in and out of the fight game around this period in time. Yeah, from the Burgos fight to the Bermudez fight, he hadn't fought in almost 2 years. So, you would like to see him start getting in there regularly. And I believe Rosa can be a true threat. Take a look at the line in this fight. Yeah, Bryce Mitchell, minus 175, man. I like Bryce Mitchell, so, I'm not going to lie. I do have Bryce Mitchell here. The value's probably got to be on Charles Rosa. I mean, two hungry prospects. Anything could happen here. So the value's probably on Rosa, but I don't know. If you can get Mitchell at that right line, maybe a little bit lower here. Mitchell is a very, very skilled opponent, so we'll have to see how that fight goes. But, yeah, I'm going to take Bryce Mitchell to win that fight, and I like the energy that he brings, man. I hope he gets a nice victory and he gets on the mic and starts to talk some shit. So, up next, man, we got Niko Price taking on Vicente Luque. This is a rematch, too, as you see here. These guys already have been locked inside the octagon with each other before. Of course, Vicente Luque did win that fight. And but Niko Price, man. Niko Price, oof, he's a guy that could finish the fight at any given time. That's for damn sure. I actually saw him win his last fight live. Fight took place in Tampa. It was amazing. He finished James Vick with that upkick. The crowd was going crazy. I was going nuts. It wasn't the best event for me overall. I'll be honest with you guys. I always keep it real with you guys. It wasn't the best event for me, but that was a highlight of that event, man. He's nasty. The way that he gets his finishes is it's sick. Of course, we cannot mention Niko Price without talking about his knockout over Randy Brown too, man. Who gets hammer fist from the bottom the way that he did and put Randy Brown out unconscious. You take a look at his losses, definitely high caliber fighters, man. Jeff Neal, Razak Al-Hassan, Vicente Luque, the fight we're talking about here. Yeah, man, Vicente Luque pulled off the Darce choke in this fight, so, the first time they fought, so a very entertaining matchup. I'm going to go at Vicente Luque here. I believe that Vicente Luque, even if he doesn't get the finish, I think that his stand-up is just so polished. And I've seen polished strikers give Niko Price problems in the past. Some fights that come to mind. I mean, he ended up getting that finish against Alan Jouban and an Alex Morono fight too. That was a fight that ended up being a no contest. But both of these fights, he actually, he was in trouble, with those fighters that are a little bit more technical, and they were kind of picking him apart at points in that fight. Of course, he did knock out Jouban in the first, but that fight was taking place before that. Jouban was, keeping his distance, circling around, and then got caught. And that's the thing with Niko Price. Niko Price can put you out at any point in the fight. The Alex Morono fight, Alex Morono was really giving him some trouble in there too. And then, the craziness happens. But, I mean, so yeah, Niko Price is a guy that, you can't sleep on him. He could be losing the fight and he'll knock you out. He's a dangerous fighter. Maybe he's not the guy that you want to have money against because anything could happen in there with him. The line is minus 275, so that might even scare you away from betting Luque even more. That's a very high line. But again, a guy that already beat Price and a guy that's very technical. The line is a little bit high for my liking. We'll have to see how this goes. But, yeah, man, Niko Price, at plus 235 odds, man. He can make you some money any given night, but got to go with Vicente Luque. Up next, you take a look over here too, man. There's Vicente Luque. That's where he really made a name for himself, man. On the Ultimate Fighter, the Black Zillions versus American Top Team. I mean, he really showed to be one of the top guys that came out of the Ultimate Fighter series. And also you take a look, man. There was the upkick to James Vick. And then, of course, the hammer fist to Randy Brown, man. So, all right. Up next, we got Jacare Souza taking on Uriah Hall. An excellent matchup. Very excited for this fight here, man. A stylistic clash. I mean, you got the nasty striker that could finish anybody at any given time in Uriah Hall. And then you got Jacare Souza, one of the best BJJ practitioners that's ever entered the octagon. But as of recently is really... over the last couple of years has just really liked to use his striking. He's really fell in love with the striking. So I expect this to be more of a striking war, but the more that these guys start to engage, if Souza is smart, he will mix in his grappling and start to wear on Uriah Hall if he wants to pull off the victory. Jacare Souza, man, 40 years old, creeping up on 41. Uriah Hall, he's not a young gun either, man. He's about to be 36. You see the reach advantage for Uriah Hall, and Uriah Hall is nasty. You take a look at what Uriah Hall's been doing recently. He's been very vocal that he wants to work his way to a title shot. He thinks that he matches up in a very great way with Israel Adesanya. That would be an exciting match to watch. But Uriah Hall has some time before he's fighting for the title, I'll tell you that much. 15-9. But always an exciting fighter. But yeah, he had the split decision victory over Antonio Carlos Jr. That was a very close fight. Had the finish against Bevon Lewis. That was a dope fight. Nice fight to watch. The Paulo Costa fight, man. That's where Paulo Costa really put his name on the map. He really just broke down Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall, he showed that he was tough in there. He was trying to hang, but those body shots and just the nasty power that Costa carries, he just brutalized Hall and eventually broke him. You saw the rematch with Gegard Mousasi. He did lose that fight. Of course, he did win the first fight against Gegard. That was a fight he was losing the entire match until he hit Gegard Mousasi, I believe, in the chin with the spinning back kick as Gegard Mousasi was switching levels. And but those are big wins, man. That just shows you he could beat anybody. And if you take a look at the losses, solid fighters here. Robert Whittaker, man, the ex-champ. But the way that I see this fight going down, man, like I said, I would like to see Jacare Souza use his grappling, use his BJJ. He can strike a little bit with Uriah Hall, but don't get too comfortable striking with him. You got to work in the grappling, hang on him, get him tired, get Uriah Hall's muscles burning out, you know what I mean? So he doesn't have that quick twitch knockout power. And, that's what I would like to see from Jacare Souza if he wants to win this fight. Because if he sits there and exchanges, Uriah Hall can definitely connect with something nasty at any given time. You see this spinning heel kick here, man. This was nasty. I saw this when they aired the show live, and that was one of the nastiest finishes I've ever seen. For those of you guys that remember, Dana White was hyping it up on the commercials. The week prior, everybody was just dying to see how this knockout played out because you knew something crazy happened. They were showing the little previews, and Dana White was like, "Oh shit." And it truly was one of the nastiest knockouts you'll ever see. That was the spinning back kick that he caught Gegard with. So, yeah, man, Uriah Hall is very dangerous. And, I'm going to go with Jacare Souza. As far as betting goes, you take a look at the line. It's very close. And actually, I believe it's closer than it was the first time. Yeah, see, Souza was around minus 140. I guess it didn't move that much, really. I would expect the line to be more around minus 140, 150. So minus 125 could be some value there. And yes, the pick is Jacare Souza. Up next, we got Michelle Waterson taking on the Cookie Monster, Carla Esparza. A very tough customer, man. The inaugural champion of the strawweight division until she got beat up by Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And I think this is a solid matchup here. Michelle Waterson is coming off that loss to Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I was there for that fight. An excellent fight. Michelle, she wobbled Joanna at one point in time in that fight, and she showed that she's a tough customer. A lot of other girls would look for ways to get out of that fight. Joanna was brutalizing her, but Michelle hung tough. And you take a look at what Michelle's been doing as of recently. Won 3 of her last 5 fights. And the Karate Hottie, 34 years old. She's getting up there in age. Coming off that loss, as we talked about. And then before that, she was on a 3-fight winning streak. Karolina Kovacevic, who's not looked good as of recently, so kind of takes away from that victory. Felice Herrig, we haven't seen her in some time. Courtney Casey, split decision. Courtney Casey, I don't even believe she's in the game right now. She had those losses against Tisha Torres, Rose Namajunas. Rose Namajunas, man, that's when she made a name for herself, when she took out Waterson in that fight. And then I believe she took out Paige Van Zandt around that time, too. Shout out to Thug Rose. I want to see her get back in the game soon. And my condolences to, I believe she lost a family member to the COVID-19. So my condolences to her. And, yeah, man. And we move over to Carla Esparza. Carla Esparza, she knows she has the wrestling credentials, a very tough customer. She always has that in her back pocket. The wrestling, she's only 32 years old, even with all that mileage on her. And on a 2-fight winning streak. That Alexa Grasso fight, I believe she lost that fight. It was extremely close. But it could have gone either way. I'm not going to say it was a robbery. She won the fight. I mean, you see it here. Before that, man, she handled John DeRoba. And then you take a look at the loss against Tatiana Suarez. Tatiana Suarez is the toughest customer in the division. So no shame in that loss. Claudia Gadelha, that was a very close fight too. Split decision loss for her. And that's where Esparza really showed that her striking is underrated. Her striking is not bad. And she could throw hands with these girls. Took out Cynthia Calvillo. That was a very close fight. People argued that fight could have went either way. So Carla Esparza is no joke. We take a look at the line. -145 for Esparza. I like that line right around there. Michelle Waterson is a very skilled customer, but I got to go with Esparza as well. And I'm a fan of Esparza. She's been around the game for so long, and she's a good fighter. So it's never a bad thing to have money on Esparza when you're getting a line that's almost around pick'em, and she's gonna show up for you. All right, up next, we got Fabrício Werdum taking on Alexey Oleinik. It's a solid matchup, man. Two of the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners to ever fight in the heavyweight division. A lot of people will argue that Fabrício Werdum is the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner to ever fight in the heavyweight division. I may believe that's debatable. Frank Mir, an excellent BJJ practitioner, of course Nogueira, but I feel like Frank Mir, when he pulled off that nasty Kimura and popped Nogueira's shoulder out of the socket, I think Frank Mir, he's at least above Nogueira. I mean, you saw how that played out. But as far as Werdum is a guy, I'll never forget it, man, when he pulled off that triangle choke against Fedor Emelianenko. I was in shock. That's really when Fedor Emelianenko had his train derailed, because before then nobody was messing with him, and Fabrício Werdum was a big underdog, and he came in there and he pulled off the triangle armbar choke of the hybrid right there. So man, that's when Werdum was really making a name for himself. But here's the thing, man. Werdum is coming off a 2-year break from fighting inside the octagon. Failed a drug test, man. That's always something you got to watch out for. And then he also got finished by this nasty Russian beast right here, Volkov, who is just a stud, man. A very underrated fighter, in my opinion. If he didn't lose to Derek Lewis, man, he'd be right up there fighting for the belt. So, but yeah, man, so Werdum, coming in as a heavy favorite, there's a lot of question marks, man, about him. And Alexey Oleinik, he's an aging fighter, but with some great submission skills, pulls off, this choke, this crazy fucking arm triangle choke from bottom. The way he does that is just, it's miraculous. And, there you see Fabrício pulling off the submission too. I mean, got to go with Fabrício Werdum, in my opinion, but the line is not accurate. I mean, for a guy that, to be -320, and for a guy that hasn't fought in 2 years and that had an issue with drug tests, so you don't know how his body's going to be. He's only gotten older. The thing is, when I look at this fight, I just feel that Werdum's striking is also very much underrated. He's very quick with his striking, and I feel that he's going to be too quick in there for Alexey Oleinik. But Alexey Oleinik carries power, underrated power. If Alexey Oleinik is able to clip Werdum, we've seen Werdum get knocked out towards the end of his career. Got knocked out by Stipe Miocic, of course. That's how he lost the belt. So, I mean, to have a line like that, you got money on him, and then all of a sudden Oleinik, in the heavyweight division, they're exchanging, and Oleinik just clips him and puts him out, which can easily happen. I wouldn't like the value there. But as far as just a sheer pick, I got to go with Fabrício Werdum to win that fight. And, I'll probably be pulling for Werdum. I was always a fan of Werdum. He's a wild dude, a true veteran and a true icon in the game, in my opinion. So, but a fight, again, the line's way off. The line is way off in that fight, in my opinion. Up next, we got, this is a fight, man, that they surprised us with too, man. I'm very excited for this fight. We got Donald Cowboy Cerrone taking on Anthony Pettis. Of course, it is a rematch. Both of these guys, I believe, are coming off losses to Tony Ferguson. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Cerrone just got finished by McGregor. Before that, Cerrone lost to Ferguson. I was out in Vegas for that fight. And then Pettis, I believe Pettis is coming off the loss to Ferguson. We'll take a look. Oh, he lost to Diego Ferreira after that too, so that's right. Oh, what am I talking about? I'm sorry, excuse me, guys. He's actually lost a couple fights since then. He did have the Stephen Thompson, the Superman punch, the Jorge Masvidal fight. That was a grappling match. Okay, then the Nate Diaz and Ferreira. So, Anthony Pettis, man, he lost 3 of his last 4 fights. The Stephen Thompson fight, that was a fight that he was getting picked apart, and then he pulled off that spectacular knockout. If he doesn't get that knockout, though, he just continues to get brutalized. Maybe doesn't finish the fight, because we've seen Pettis time and time again, not make it to the end of that, the end of the 3rd round or 5 rounds if it's a championship fight or main event. He just doesn't make it to the end very often. The fight against Tony Ferguson, he broke his hand. He kind of gave up in that fight, in my opinion. I don't blame him, though. I mean, the guy was taking so much damage in there. I don't blame him. I don't know if his hand really broke or not. I believe he did post a picture that his hand broke, but you don't want to be locked in there with Tony Ferguson at the way that fight was going. And Nate Diaz, man, he let Nate Diaz just bully him up. And then Diego Ferreira, man, an underrated fighter. He really put it on him there. And then Cowboy Cerrone, of course, Cowboy Cerrone, man, just got finished by McGregor. And he's on a 3-fight losing skid. All 2 top guys, though, Tony Ferguson, Gaethje, McGregor. Gaethje put him to sleep. And a lot of people underestimate Cerrone, man. Cerrone is a very skilled fighter. The first time they fought, Pettis hit him with that body kick. And, that's when Pettis was like the real Pettis, though. Back in the day when Pettis was just getting knockouts and submissions on everybody, the lightweight champion. I believe that he took a lot of damage, and he's just not the same fighter these days, in my opinion. Something happened to him. Maybe the game kind of passed him by. It's weird. He's kind of small for the welterweight and lightweight division, but he can't make the weight to featherweight. It takes all his energy away from him, and you saw how that fight took place when he fought Max Holloway at the featherweight division. So he's kind of stuck in that in-between spot, man. You take a look at what Ferguson did to both of these guys. I don't know. I mean, how do we see this fight going down in the rematch? The way I see it, I don't think it's going to be the same type of fight as the first time they fought. I don't see Pettis just styling on him getting the finish. It definitely could happen. You know how Cerrone is. When Cerrone gets hit, he tends to fold up sometimes. But Cerrone's a tough dude as well sometimes, and maybe he can survive through those beginning exchanges, and then he'll start to wear on Pettis. And then, like I said, man, Pettis has kind of been fading towards the end of these fights as over the last couple of years. So I'm gonna go with Cowboy Cerrone. You take a look at the line. Cowboy Cerrone is gonna be. It's going to be a slight underdog, and I'm going to go with the underdog there. Yeah, I'm going to take Cowboy Cerrone. I think he avoids that knockout. I think he avoids that body shot this time. And as the fight hits the 2nd and 3rd rounds, I expect Cerrone to turn it up, and maybe he outpoints Pettis, and then he pulls off the decision. Up next, I've got a little picture of Greg Hardy here, man. This is when he was in college. Being that we got the NFL draft taking place, over the weekend. I got it going on behind me over here. Shout out to the Miami Dolphins. Got Tua Tagovailoa. Comment below, man. Who's your guys' teams, man? Who'd you guys draft? Were you guys happy with your draft? For those of you guys that are into football, I was very happy to get Tua. I think Tua is gonna revolutionize the game, man, for the Dolphins, man, in this new era for the Dolphins. It's been tough for us as of recently, so I expect Tua to come in there and change the game up for us. Greg Hardy, man, a guy that a lot of you guys love to hate on, man. Everyone hates on Greg Hardy. He had that whole domestic violence thing with this girl. Nobody really knows the details of what happened, but you know how a lot of you guys are out there, man. You guys like to act like you know, and it's understandable, though. A guy that hits a female, I mean, that's despicable, so I get it. But you guys don't really know what went on with that, man. But the guy, one thing you can't say about the guy is, he's not a mush, man. This guy is a stud athlete, a real stud athlete, and that's why you're able to see him. You're able to see him come over to MMA and start to excel to the level that he has as quickly as he has. You see him over here in the Dana White's Contender Series. He fought on Dana White's Contender Series twice. and got finishes in both of them. So, this guy, he's looked good, man. He's looked good. But then, you look at him as of recently. Take a look at Greg Hardy. As of recently, Greg Hardy has definitely taken a step back, once he's got up to the upper echelon of the division. And, has a very tough customer in front of him in Yorgan de Castro. But, once Greg Hardy was locked in there with Volkov, and Volkov absolutely picked him apart. It's just a different class of fighters, man. They shouldn't even be in there together. Ben Sassoli, that was a fight, man. It was a no contest. Initially, Greg Hardy did win the fight and then got overturned because he used this asthma spray. But, he didn't look good in that fight. He was backpedaling towards the second and third rounds, and Ben Sassoli was trying to walk him down. And, Ben Sassoli just got knocked unconscious in his last fight as well. So, I don't know how good of a fighter he is. And that's a fight that Greg Hardy should have, brought it to him and looked for the finish. And he didn't. So, hasn't looked good in the last two fights. Before that, did look very good against my boy Juan Adams. You guys remember how that went. Juan Adams got finished. But speaking of Juan Adams, man, I expect to have him on the show. We'll do an interview with him. He signed with the new promotion. He's trying to work his way back to the UFC. So we'll keep tabs on him. In my opinion, he will be back in the UFC. So Yorgan de Castro, this is a guy that made his name on the Ultimate Fighter show as well. And looked very good, man. Has good leg kicks. Looked, very good with his leg kicks against Alton Meeks in the Contender Series fight. And then against Justin Tafa, man, and his UFC debut, got the knockout. So this guy just shows, man, his hands are no joke as well. He's big. He's a real heavyweight fighter. He trains at a solid camp down over here in South Florida. And then the guy is heavy, man. He's solid. So this is going to be in no shape or form, a walk in the park for Greg Hardy. A lot of you guys hated on me for, picking De Castro, and I'm going to pick him again. As you guys know, I did the breakdown video the first time we thought this fight was going to happen, and a lot of you guys were messaging me, why would I take De Castro over Hardy? I'm going to take him because I think he's the real deal, and Greg Hardy is a little bit overhyped. I think the fight's very close, but as far as betting goes, the value, the line is off in my opinion. I think it came more back to earth as of recently, but Greg Hardy, with this type of line, it's a heavyweight bout. The way that Hardy looked against Sassoli, Yorgan de Castro is not Ben Sassoli. He's going to be walking forward. He's going to be looking to knock Hardy out. Hardy has question marks in his game. You saw what happened with his asthma. It seems like he loses his mental in the later rounds. So I'm going to go with Yorgan de Castro. I think Yorgan de Castro's leg kicks are nasty. I could see him working his leg kicks against Greg Hardy and pulling off the decision. Or maybe even we see Greg Hardy get knocked out here, which would be stunning. I know a lot of you guys would be excited to see that. So, of course, Hardy's never been finished, and he only had that one real loss against Volkov. It was a decision. Alan Crowder was a no contest illegal knee that Hardy threw. Again, showing that Hardy, his mental is not the best in there. So, I'm going to take Yorgan de Castro, man. I'm going to take Yorgan de Castro to win the fight. I mean, you see Yorgan de Castro clipping Tafa there, getting his first victory inside the octagon. So Yorgan de Castro is no joke, and there's value there. In my opinion, there's somewhat of value there. Up next, we got Jeremy Stephens taking on Calvin Kattar. What a fight in the featherweight division. Two absolute studs. Jeremy Stephens, man, just an absolute beast. You guys know the deal, man. When he knocks people out, he doesn't TKO them. He puts them to sleep. They don't move. And then Conor McGregor, bounced back with the who the fuck is that guy? For those of you guys that saw my video, man, I made a funny video on Instagram. Make sure you guys go out there, go follow my Instagram page, MMA Fortune Teller _. Put a really funny video out there in regards to Conor McGregor and Jeremy Stephens. And I'm always putting out the memes and whatnot. I believe that my channel, my page is, my Instagram page has some of the more underrated memes in the MMA game. But I don't get the notoriety because I'm not really pushing my stuff for the memes and whatnot. I like to break down fights, but you got these other guys out there on Instagram that they put these corny memes out, but maybe I'll step up my meme game. You take a look at the line. Calvin Kattar is a -250. That's crazy. You get Jeremy Stephens at over plus 200, man. You get him at plus 210 and 5 dimes. That's crazy. Jeremy Stephens, he can knock anybody out. As of recently, Jeremy Stephens, he had a tough go, man, with the Mexican fighter. Obviously, they had that whole beef, and Jeremy Stephens started off slow, but it really looked good towards the end of that fight. If that was a 5-round fight, I think it would have played out a little bit differently. Against Yair Rodriguez. I would love to see that fight ran back, make it a 5-round fight. But that's a loss there, but no real shame. Yair is the truth. He's a stud. Before that, lost to Zabit. That was another fight where he looked good towards the end of the fight, but started off slow. And then, of course, the Aldo fight. That's when people were underestimating and sleeping on the legend in Aldo. And, I've seen Jeremy Stephens get cracked to the body a couple times, and he starts to wilt. So you got to watch out with those body shots, because Katar's boxing is serious. He's going to be working the body. But you take a look back at the Josh Emmett knockout. I was there. It was live. It was in Orlando. And that was an amazing knockout. About the Korean Superboy. I don't even believe we've seen him in the fight game since that knockout. Jeremy Stephens took him out. Gilbert Melendez, changing of the guard. The Hanato Moicano fight, very close. But Jeremy Stephens is a stud. Calvin Kattar, speaking of fights where the fighter started off slow and then looked good towards the later rounds, man, the Zabit fight too, Started off slow. If that was a 5-round fight, I think he probably wins that fight as well. So, Jeremy Stephens is just he's a nasty dude. He's been training with Dominick Cruz a lot as of recently. Both of these guys knew that they had these fights coming up, obviously. And Jeremy Stephens, man, carries a lot of power. If he connects on you, he will put you out. Jeremy Stephens is absolutely no joke. But Kattar's boxing is nasty. You take a look at his fight against Ricardo Lamas, the way that his hands, the speed in his hands, I'm telling you, this guy's a real boxer. Calvin Kattar is one of those guys, in my opinion, he's a real boxer. He's not just an MMA striker. This guy, he could hold his own in a boxing ring, in my opinion. Some of the work I've seen him do with his hands. And, I got to go with Calvin Kattar. I think the line's off, but I got to go with Calvin Kattar in that fight. I think he's the real deal. So, up next, this is a fight I know a lot of you guys are excited about, man. Francis Ngannou taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Whew. I know there was some rumors they were trying to push this to be an interim heavyweight champ. I disagree with it. You can't disrespect Stipe, the legend Stipe Miocic. He's out there, fighting the virus and whatnot, man. He's a first responder. He's just a stud. And, let Stipe do his thing. Let these guys fight. And maybe, it's potentially the interim or, the winner of this will fight for the belt. But they don't need to be holding gold yet, especially after what Stipe did to Francis the last time they fought. Let's not forget what the legend Stipe did to Francis Ngannou. All you guys were sleeping on Stipe. And what happened? Stipe just... he outclassed him. But, as of recently, Francis Ngannou has looked nasty. Of course, the knockout over Alistair Overeem. He turned Alistair Overeem into a Pez dispenser. And, of course, this guy Rozenstruik has been just destroying these guys as well. The thing about Rozenstruik, man, I did not like the way he looked against Alistair Overeem. He did get that knockout at the very end of the fight, but that entire fight, he was getting picked apart. So, he needs to work on his technique a little bit and his volume. He didn't have a lot of volume in that fight. But this is the type of fight, I don't think it really matters about volume, because I think somebody's going to get knocked out. There's just so much power that's going to be taking place in this fight. And when one of these guys connects, man, it's going to be nasty. Francis Ngannou, man, for those of you guys that have been keeping up with him online, man, he's been training like crazy. The guy is just an absolute specimen. And his striking is just getting better and better. Of course, before this whole virus happened and whatnot, he was spending a lot of time at the PI Institute over in Vegas, just getting top-notch training and nutrition and whatnot. He's going to be scary. I'm going to go with Ngannou to win the fight. This is another fight. I'm going to repeat myself, but this is another fight. You got to be careful with the line. Francis Ngannou minus 275. Anybody can be put to sleep, but I get it. Francis Ngannou is just, his boxing is getting better and better. His striking is getting better and better. He's a freak athlete. If somebody's going to get knocked out here, in my opinion, it's going to be Rozenstruik. But, you remember what happened with the Derek Lewis Francis Ngannou fight, man. Ngannou did hesitate a lot, and he got intimidated a little bit in that fight. So does Ngannou get intimidated by Rozenstruik in this fight? Because he knows that he's no joke as well. So really have to see how that all plays out. But yeah, got to go with Francis Ngannou. Working his way back up to a title shot. after the 2-fight losing skid to Stipe, and then Derek Lewis, man. Took out Curtis Blades, all knockouts. Just babied Junior Dos Santos, babied Cain Velasquez, babied Curtis Blades. But this guy, this isn't an aging veteran. This isn't a guy that he's already beat, going in there for the rematch. This is fresh blood. Rozenstruik's going to come out, and he's going to try to make this a fight. So we'll see how it goes. But Francis Ngannou is the pick. And then up next, we got Henry Cejudo taking on Dominick Cruz. What a treat. This was a fight that not a lot of people saw happening. And they threw it in there for us, and I'm excited. I'm a big fan of Dominick Cruz's. I've met him in person. I met him in Vegas in the hotel lobby when Conor McGregor took on Khabib Nurmagomedov, and chatted up with him for a little bit. Should have got a picture. I slipped up, didn't get a picture, but we chatted it up for a little bit. And then just an absolute class act. Shout out to Dominick Cruz. Always engages with the fans. Really a good guy and an absolute legend. You take a look at the line here. Dominick Cruz is a 2-1 underdog. That's crazy. I get it. Cruz hasn't fought in a long time. He really hasn't fought in a long time. A lot of people forget. Cruz's last fight was against Cody Garbrandt, where he got outclassed in that fight. That's when Cody was the real deal. He was really peaking in his career. But before that, man, Cruz was taking care of these guys. Beat Dillashaw when Dillashaw was obviously cheating, doing the fucking blood exchanges and all that shit. Took out Faber. Took out Demetrius Johnson back in the day too, man. That was a long time ago, 2011. That's crazy. Back when Demetrius Johnson was fighting at bantamweight. I mean, these are the a different era of fighters here. You're taking a look at Scott Jorgensen, back in the WEC days. Benavidez back in WEC. Brian Bowles, Ian McCall. Cruz has been. He jumped from one era to he's continuously fighting in another era. The Henry Cejudo, Triple C. This guy's an Olympic gold medalist, double UFC champion. He's the real deal. You take a look at Henry Cejudo here. Henry Cejudo, didn't look good in that first round against Marlon Moraes, but ended up really digging deep and coming back hard in that fight. Took out TJ Dillashaw. Clipped him early, and I think if that fight would have went on longer, I think Dillashaw would have won that fight, but he got clipped early. He screwed up. The Demetrius Johnson fight, he was a blanket in that fight, but he did the right thing to pull that fight off. But let's not forget, this is a guy that lost to Demetrius Johnson, got destroyed with those knees, in the clinch. Joseph Benavidez won that split decision. Dominick Cruz is a bigger fighter than Benavidez. In my opinion, a more skilled striker. Some of the best footwork that you're going to see in the UFC, period, ever. If Dominick Cruz hasn't skipped a beat and he's been training and he's not a big believer in ring rust that he said himself, I could see Dominick Cruz going out there and winning this fight. His footwork is so good. I just feel like as far as the striking goes, I could see him outpointing Cejudo. Dominick Cruz is a real wrestler. He started off his game. He was a wrestler that came over to the MMA game. So he'll be bigger in there. Maybe he could hold his own in regards to the wrestling stuff, the takedowns, and he can outpoint Cejudo. I'm gonna go with the underdog here in Dominick Cruz. I'm hoping that he's in great shape and he's prepared for this fight. He's been training with Jeremy Stephens, and everything I've seen from me following him on Instagram and whatnot, he says he's ready to go. He looks in phenomenal shape. I'm going to take the underdog here, Dominick Cruz, man. Just look at him. He's putting out tutorials on footwork. If you guys want to, buy it, you guys go buy it. Shout out to Cruz though, man. And he's been calling for the big fights for quite some time. You see him over here. He was on that Brendan Schaub little talk show where they eat food from the food trucks. And he's been calling for a big fight, and he got a real big fight. I think he just got the best fight that he could ask for. It's for gold, and it's a big legacy fight for Dominick Cruz. And then you got the cringy Henry Cejudo, man. This is a guy I would like to see him get knocked out. I really would. I'm not a big hater on him, but he's just cringy. It would be funny to see him get knocked out in there. I know he does a lot of it for fun, but he just keeps on talking shit, and I think his time's coming. I don't know if Cruz is going to be the guy that knocks him out, but Cruz can definitely embarrass him in there and style on him, that's for sure. And I'm going to go with Cruz to win the fight. All right. Moving on to the main event. You guys know what it is. It's the fight that we were all excited to see a couple weeks ago when they announced it. It's obviously not the Khabib versus Tony fight, but in my opinion, it's right there. It's right there with it. Two of the most exciting fighters to ever bless the octagon. Justin Gaethje, the highlight. Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. I mean, come on, guys. Think about it. Every time these guys step into the octagon, absolute fireworks, absolute wars every time. I've been so torn on this fight. I've been going back and forth. I'm probably going to make a pick spontaneously here right now. I initially was on Justin Gaethje. I was on Tony Ferguson last time we talked about the breakdown on this fight. And I might change it up here in a second because Justin Gaethje, 31 years old. Tony Ferguson comes in with a 6-inch reach. But the difference is now, going into this fight, Justin Gaethje's had more time to prepare for this fight. One of the reasons why I was not really on him the first time was that he was questioning his cardio. You saw the interviews. Justin Gaethje was talking about the fact that, he may be at 90% if the fight goes into the late 4th and 5th rounds, that, he may fade. He even said that the way he would lose his fights, that he would start to gas out and that Tony may pull off a submission or some type of finish in the late rounds. When you hear a fighter say that, man, it's hard to have confidence in him. But I guess he was just keeping it real with you guys. And you see him over here, back in World Series of Fighting. This guy was, every time that this guy fought over in the World Series of Fighting, it was some of the most entertaining fights, man. For those of you guys that didn't know about him back then, you guys got to run the tape back, man. This guy, every time he was fighting, I had to see it. I don't care what was going on. I had to make sure I tune in for this fight, for his fights. And he carried that over into the UFC. Ever since he's been in the UFC, nothing but nonstop action. You saw him against Michael Johnson in his debut in the UFC. What an amazing fight. He had those 2 setbacks, man, against 2 of the top guys, that and Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier. But since then, man, he's bounced back and his boxing's looked better than ever. Took out James Vick early in that fight. Turned James Vick into the Homer Simpson of MMA. I love to say that because James Vick was talking shit, saying that Gaethje was the Homer Simpson of MMA, and Vick is just turned into nothing but what he said about Gaethje, man. Vick has been getting put to sleep time and time again. Shout out to James Vick. Then you got Edson Barbosa, man. He closed the man, cut the cage off, fucking knocked him out with that nasty hook. Donald Cowboy Cerrone, you saw how that fight went, early knockout. But now you got Tony Ferguson, man. This guy he's been training nonstop. The guy, he made weight for that fight. The fight was supposed to take place, was it last weekend or whatnot? Tony Ferguson chose to make weight. And I saw an interesting video that was put out. His name's not ringing a bell to me, man. A very tough guy, an ex-Marine he's running as he talked about Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson made weight that day to prove something, not just to himself, but to prove something to his opponents, man, to get inside their heads, to show how much of a warrior he is. He didn't have to make weight, and he did it anyway. And I'm sure a lot of fighters take note of that, and it's intimidating, but I don't think that Justin Gaethje's that type of guy. Justin Gaethje's always game, and he's ready to go. And, damn, I don't know, man. I've been back and forth on who I want to pick in this fight. The fact that Gaethje's had more time to prepare and his cardio's better, I think that Gaethje has the edge in the boxing. And Tony Ferguson, Tony Ferguson has had some holes, man, in his game in regards to his striking. We saw him get connected on by Pettis. We saw him get connected on, who is that one guy, man? His name's slipping my mind right now. Fighting out of Team Jackson, Wink. He connected on him. He took that fight on short notice. Who was that again? Lando Venata. A lot of guys have connected on Ferguson, and usually, when he gets connected on, he rolls over, he survives, he has such survival skills, and then he comes back and he starts to brutalize his opponents with his cardio and his nasty, inside leg kicks and his reach. Oh, man, I've been so back and forth on this fight, man. I think I'm gonna go with Tony Ferguson. I was gonna pick Justin Gaethje, man. I was gonna change it up because he had more time to prepare, but I gotta go with Tony Ferguson. The guy is a freak. I love his reach. I love his tenacity, and this guy's spirit's crazy. If he loses this fight, he loses by getting knocked out to Gaethje. Gaethje will sleep him. He'll connect with a nasty hook or whatnot, and he'll finish him. If he doesn't get that finish, Tony Ferguson wins the fight. He'll start to brutalize Gaethje. He'll keep pushing the pace, and he won't stop. he won't stop for 25 minutes, and he'll win the fight in the late rounds. I'm going to go with Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's he's a true icon in the sport. And, yeah, I got to go with Tony Ferguson. Fuck it. So, man, that's going to wrap up UFC 249. As we talked about, man, the UFC has announced they're going to be putting out a lot of fights within the next couple of weeks. So expect to see a lot of the teller. For those of you guys that want to work with me, you guys know what to do, man. DM me on Instagram. You can reach me at MMAfortuneteller@gmail.com as well. But try to get to me on Instagram. I check that more often. And I'm going to have a lot of solid plays. You guys seen what I've been doing recently. It's time to make some money, man. What else do we have to do? There's no other sports to watch. We got nothing but fights going down. And let's take advantage of it. Let's make some money sitting at the house. And other than that, man, fights are going to be good. I know you guys are going to enjoy them just as much as I am. Being that, we've been on lockdown, we're not able to socialize and do things that we normally are able to do. And we've been absolutely starved from fights and sports. And just think about when it's fight night, man, and it finally happens. I'm super excited. And that's going to be the breakdown for UFC 249. Also, as I stated, expect to see a lot of fighter interviews coming out to you guys. And exciting fighter interviews. I'm talking about, we're going to ask the questions that all these pencil necks aren't asking. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a whole different type of thing being put out to you guys. I think you guys will like it. I've already been talking to quite a few fighters that are definitely in. They know what the teller is all about, and they said let them know whenever I'm ready. So expect to start seeing those get put out. Please subscribe to the channel. It's always much appreciated. I'm not that far from hitting 1,000 subscribers, which is it's a big deal for me. Within a very short period in time, I've had a lot of subscribers. So yeah, 848. Let's hit 1,000, man. Do the teller a favor. Go out there, hit subscribe, and help the teller out. Go catch me on Instagram, like I said, MMAFortuneteller_. That's gonna wrap it up. And then you guys stay safe out there. Make sure you're safe, man. The teller is always praying for you guys and your family, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Signing out, the teller. The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.